Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena here. You're watching our video comparison between the Motorola Moto X 2014 edition and the Samsung Galaxy S5. So the Moto X is still hot on the scene. It arrived not too long ago, and for the most part, it has some of the same qualities as last year's model, but in a more beefier package this time around. Whereas with the Galaxy S5, it's been making the rounds for quite some time, and in that time period, it's proven itself to be a very viable competitor in the market. Now we have the best of both worlds from respective companies. Moto X, Galaxy S5, let's begin. The Moto X is simply the better looking handset. That's because of its personalized design. You could customize it to your liking, from the choice the rear cover to the front and even the accent colors. There's just a host of different combinations you could choose from. It makes it more lively compared to the few color options that are available with the Galaxy S5. On top of that, the Moto X is just a sturdier one too. That's because of its aluminum frame. It adds a lot of strength to the handset, but we can't count out the Galaxy S5. It is water resistant, so you could technically, submerge it underwater, which is something the Moto X can't do. A few notable characteristics of the Moto X is that it has two speakers on the front, but actually when you play music, it only emits it from the bottom one. The top one's left for just the earpiece. There are also IR blasters around the sides, the corners of the handset that comes into play as you're trying to wake up the display by just waving your hand over it. As for the Galaxy S5, there are quite a few notable things that come packaged with it. First and foremost, you have a fingerprint sensor incorporated into the home button. Great way of actually unlocking the device. You have also a heart rate sensor in the back. You can measure your pulse. You have an IR blaster along the top, so it's used to actually double as a universal remote. And it features a removable back cover, so you can gain access to the battery as well as a micro SD card slot. The displays here have very similar qualities, and at the end of the day, there's not one that we prefer more over the other. So the Moto X has a 5.2-inch 1080p AMOLED display versus the 5.1-inch 1080p Super AMOLED panel of the Galaxy S5. So seeing that they both have 1080p resolution, honestly, we don't notice one that's drastically superior with details. They both deliver some crisp looking visuals in the web browser, so no problems with that. As far as outdoor visibility, neither is actually great because with AMOLED screens, they tend to wash out. They're not as strong compared to LCD panels. But on paper, the Galaxy S5 delivers a stronger brightness output of 442 nits versus 385 with the Moto X. Again, they also have some really nice wide viewing angles. That's a typical quality of AMOLED. And on top of that, they also have, oversaturated color reproduction. Though with the Galaxy S5, we could select different color modes if we want to for a more natural look. Another major determining factor between the two is their respective platform experiences. Now, they're both on the opposite side of the spectrum because the Moto X is running a mostly stock KitKat experience, whereas with the Galaxy S5, it's running Samsung's TouchWiz Nature UX experience. So it's a matter of simplicity versus complexity. The Moto X has a very simple, clean look to it. That's the benefit of stock Android, and they don't try to inundate us with a ton of features. They have some cool ones like Moto Voice, Moto Display that we find very useful, and honestly, the simplicity route they've gone with is something that we really appreciate. In contrast though, with the Samsung Galaxy S5, we know that its set of software features can be a little bit overbearing and very comprehensive, but some people like having options, and some of those people actually like having the flexibility of using those features, whereas with the Moto X, you might not have such a comprehensive set. Interestingly enough, they're both packing the same chipset, a quad-core 2.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 chipset with 2 GB of RAM. So honestly, on the surface, both are really good with the responsiveness. Basic tasks, they execute with no effort at all. And with more complex things like playing games, they're still very effective, but it's in the software that we notice that the Moto X is far more snappy with its performance. Again, that could be attributed to stock Android, whereas TouchWiz somehow could be bogging things down, so every now and then we have a tendency of seeing a little bit of a slowdown with the Galaxy S5. Being flagship phones and all, they're stuffed with the usual set of connectivity features. So that includes things like 4G LTE connectivity, so you're going to get fast page loads, and when it comes to the web browsing experience, both are awesome because of their large displays and high resolutions. Though you get some additional features, software features with the Galaxy S5, where you could actually wave your hand over the display to actually scroll vertically. The other set of connectivity features include assisted GPS, Bluetooth 4.0, you have dual band Wi-Fi and NFC, but the Samsung Galaxy S5 packs along an IR blaster, and that's very useful. If you happen to lose your remote, you could use it as an alternative. So again, we see Motorola favoring simplicity more than anything else, especially with its camera app. A cool thing with the Moto X that we could twist it a couple times, automatically will launch the camera app. So if you're in a tight spot, you could do that to jump to the camera app. Now again, it's very basic. It has a few different shooting modes like HDR and panoramic, but that's much it. And there's no manual controls whatsoever with this one. In contrast though, the Galaxy S5 is just riddled with a bunch of different shooting modes and manual controls. So all you gotta do is press the mode button here. You could see what they are. There are just several different ones you could choose from. Again, some people will really appreciate just being able to have a bunch of different things available to them. And likewise, you also have a few different manual controls. You could adjust the ISO, you could do other things like burst mode. So it's pretty handy on its own. The cameras used by these two handsets are pretty exquisite. The Moto X has a 13 megapixel camera. It has a dual LED flash ring that's kind of unique in itself, while the Samsung Galaxy S5 has a slightly larger 16 megapixel sensor in there, and both handsets benefit from having 4K video. If you love taking a lot of photos, honestly, you're not going to be disappointed by using either phones. They're fantastic, and when you print out 4x6 shots, you're honestly not going to notice a big difference between the two. But there's a slight advantage with the Samsung Galaxy S5. So when it comes to outdoor shots, it just casts a better exposure with its images. At the same time, it even manages to deliver sharper results, though the Moto X is still pretty good in that as well. Under lower lighting conditions, we also favor the Galaxy S5, but just a little bit. That's partly because the Moto X's shots are a little bit darker while it's brighter with the Galaxy S5. Furthermore, we have the same reservations about their video recording quality. Now we're taking a look at their 1080p samples, and there's just a slight advantage again with the Galaxy S5, but both are still wonderful in their qualities. The thing about the Galaxy S5 is that it has a sharper overall look, and the audio recording is a lot more crisp in tone. You can use the Google Play Music app on both devices if you want, but with the Galaxy S5, it also has the TouchWiz music player if you want to use that as an alternative. As far as the audio quality from their speakers, they both have one. The Moto X has it on the front, the below display, while the Galaxy S5 speaker is in the back. Now, the Galaxy S5 speaker is louder at 81 decibels versus 74.5 decibels with the Moto X. When it comes to making phone calls, we prefer using the Moto X just because it has less distractions than the Galaxy S5. The Galaxy S5 is just an average performer. Meanwhile, the Moto X is excellent in the way that voices are distinctive and clear on both ends of the line. On the flip side though, it's the Galaxy S5 that has the superior battery life between the two. In our battery benchmark test, it managed to get 7 hours 38 minutes from a full charge versus only the 5 hours 45 minutes tally of the Moto X. One attractive thing about the Moto X is right from the get-go, it was given a very aggressive price point, $100 with a 2-year contract, so it's very reasonable for the specs and its performance. But the Galaxy S5, seeing that it's been out for quite some time, it's treated to a discount. You know, normally you'd pay $200, but depending on where you go, you could probably find it for less than $100 as well. After taking all that into consideration, it's still a tough call which device to go to. It just depends on your taste. Now, if you prefer simplicity and a design that's very attractive, you might want to look into the Moto X. Its software features are light, it works, it's simple, intuitive. At the same time, you could customize the way it looks. Conversely, if you want something that's going to be a top performer in all key categories, Samsung Galaxy S5 is going to be your device. Now, the design might not be as polarizing, but it is water resistant, so that's a quality you might want to consider. It's outfitted with a ton of software and hardware features that you're not going to find in the Moto X. And yeah, we could say that the experience in itself is a little bit on the complex side, but some people will love to have more than less. So if you guys want to learn more about either devices, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. It's John V. Thanks for watching.